So this tutorial will show you how to install Open-PHT onto a wide range of boxes, but mainly focusing on Amlogic devices. So Open-PHT is a Plex client. Basically, it allows you to run Plex at its absolute best. It's super fast, as well as that Open-PHT resolves a lot of bugs and a lot of issues that are associated with Plex. So I'm going to be concentrating on Amlogic devices. I'm going to show you how to dual boot it, then install it onto internal storage on your device, as well as that, and I'm going to show you how to update it if any updates come out in the future. Anyway, this is going to be a long video. I'm going to try and timestamp it as I go along, and yeah, anyway, it's going to be a long one, so let's get on with it. Okay, so let's begin. So first off, we need to go and grab one of the files that we will need. So we're going to need to use a tool with this. We're going to need to use Win32 Disk Imager. This is the tool just here. I shall leave links in the description where you can get that. You can also use Etcher, as well as that you can use Rufus if you want to. It's not that big a deal. So yeah, grab this program and let's go to this website just here. Again, those links will be in the description. We need to go down to just here, and it just says compiled for S905, S805, and S912, Wetek Play 2, and it's version 1.9. So the URL is just here, so just copy it and then we can go and paste it in your browser, and you'll be taken to a GitHub page. Now, if you're not familiar with GitHub, it's absolutely fine because the downloads are just here. Now, we have it available for generic PCs, x86 computers. We have the Odroid C2 version, we have Raspberry Pi version, and then obviously we've got our Amlogic versions here. Now, S805 is just here, S905 is just here if you've got an S905 device, and S912 as well. Now, we've also got Wetek versions if you've got a Wetek device, but I'm going to be using an S805 MXQ box. So I'm going to be using this here. Now you'll see there's two files here. One of them is a .image.gz file. That's the one we're going to download right now. And then we've got a .tar. So the .tar file is what we use to update the system. And it's not something I'm going to be showing you in this part of the tutorial, but if you hold on and watch it all, at the end I'll show you how to update the system using .tar files. So let's download this one just here. And I've already downloaded it, so it's on my desktop. So you download it, and then let's go to the desktop and let's show you how to do the next part. So once you've downloaded it, it's just here. So mine is an image.gz file, so we need to make it an image file. So just right and click, and whatever tool you have, WinRAR or 7-zip, whatever, just unzip it, and it should bring you a file that says IMG on it. So this is an image file. So we need to write this onto an SD card. So now would be a good time to place your SD card into your computer, ready to go. So we're going to be using this tool here, Win32 Disk Imager. I did mention before, download it. You can use Etcher if you want, or whatever you like. I prefer to use Win32 Disk Imager. It's just what I've used over the years. So let's load this up. And here we go. So it's loaded up now. So my SD card's ready. Mine's on device H. That's the only one I've got in there. Just make sure if you've got any USB sticks, make sure you're not writing onto something that you don't want to write onto, because you're going to lose all your data. So my SD card is in drive H. Next thing we need to do is we need to select our image that we've just unzipped. And here we go. So desktop, down to where the image file is. It is here somewhere, OpenPHT embedded S805.arm, and then click open, and then we're going to write to it. Now this is going to take a couple of minutes to actually do, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move over to S905 versions and S912, because they are slightly different and they'll have a slightly different setup. So this is if you have an S805 device. Now we're going to move on to S905 device setup. So this part is for you users with S905, S905X and W, as well as S912 devices. Now the reason this is different to S805 is mainly because the S805 is so heavily developed and it should work on the majority of S905 devices. I'm not saying it's going to work on everything, but most users with S905 devices normally have an MXQ box, and Kazak heavily developed that for the MXQ device, and as far as I can see, Libre-ELEC is running perfectly. So Open-PHT is based on Libre-ELEC, so as far as the S905 devices are concerned, it should just work, even though there is just that one file. Can't guarantee that, but you can certainly give it a go. Now, S905 and S912 are different because there's so many different devices, so we need to change something called a device tree blob. Now, this is pretty straightforward. We have covered this a lot in the past, especially where Libre-ELEC is concerned. So if you guys have an S905 device, be it the X or W version or the S912 device, then stay tuned, because we're going to go through the DTB file changing in that part. So let's go back to the release OpenPHT page on GitHub. As you can see, we have the S905 and S912 files here. Now I'm going to download this one just here, and then I'm going to write it onto an SD card. There is a few different versions I see. 4K fix, I'm not entirely sure what that means. Again, if you want to find out more about this, I suggest you ask on this forum, because these guys know everything about the ins and outs of it. So this guide's really just to show you how to set it all up, basically. So download your S905 S912 version, and let's go back to our desktop and then write it onto your SD card, just like I showed you how to do the S905 version. And then what I need you to do is I need you to go to the SD card where it's written to. So mine's written to here, and then go into there, go into the actual SD card now, and you'll see a file named DTB. Now here is the part that you really need to pay attention to. So we need to delete this, but first of all, let's go and grab a DTB file that's, you know, suitable for your particular TV box. So I'm a bit surprised that the device trees aren't actually, you know, available anywhere on here, which is a bit strange. But you know, they're easily found. We can just go to Kazak's Libre-ELEC builds, and we can go down to S905 or S912. Just depends which one you have. So I'm going to be using S905. Again, guys, all these links will be in the description, so don't worry if I'm going too fast or anything like that. I will label it, etc. DTB files, get it here. So, for example, I'm going to be using S905. If you've got S912, then again, kazak.libreelec.tv/S912. I'll go here, and what it does, it brings us up to a directory. And if you've watched any of our Libre-ELEC videos in the past, you'll recognize this straight away. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go to 8.2 and go down to the bottom here, and you'll see it just labeled device trees. And we have S905, S905D, and S905X. Now, for you S905W users, you'll be happy to know that S905X device trees work for whatever reason on S905W. I suspect because the processors are basically identical. I think the S905W is just a slightly cheaper version, if that makes sense. And yeah, they are basically identical sockets, or SoCs if you want to call them that. So I'm just going to choose one randomly. So S905X. So to translate what this all means, so these are actually board names. So GXL P212 basically means you have an S905X device. Next thing here is 1G, is 1 GB of RAM. And the next thing we have here is basically some of the actual branded names. So Kuwel it's a TV box basically. We've also got 2 GB versions. We've also got 3 GB versions as well. There's TXtreme Mini here. It's going to be a case of trying a lot of them. You work out what hardware your box has got, and then try and match it up as best you can. So if you've got a 3 GB version, then obviously try this one. And if you've got a TXtreme Mini, try that one. TXtreme Mini also shares its hardware with a lot of devices, and I mean a lot of devices. As well as that, we've got slow eMMC. So you've maybe got a really crappy box that's really painfully slow. That'll be the one you want. As well as that, we've got NAND versions. Now, we're going to come back to this at one point, actually, because we're going to be installing onto the internal storage of your device. And some of these DTB files are required for installing onto your NAND installation. So your internal storage, which we call NAND or eMMC, your flash storage, which is inside your box. And when we're going to be writing from the SD card onto the internal storage, we're going to need a specific DTB. So if you're planning on actually using this installed on your box, then you need to be choosing NAND or slow MMC versions. And again, you've got NAND versions of 1 GB RAM, so the NAND version just here, and 2 GB RAM NAND versions as well. So if you're just planning on running it from an SD card, then it doesn't really matter which one you choose. But if you want to install it to internal, like we're going to get onto very, very soon, you need to be choosing the NAND versions. And I'll go over this again just in a second. So download your DTB file. So I'm just going to download this one just to give you an example, and download that. It's very, very quick. They're very small files. And I'm just going to place it into my SD card, just like that. So this is where we've just written the OpenPHT operating system onto, and this is what's displayed. There's our kernel, there's a device tree, the original device tree blob that's already on there. We've got a system folder and lots of different files as well, which really you don't need to pay attention to. So this device tree, the chances are it's probably not going to work. You can certainly try it, but that's entirely up to you. So I'm just going to delete that. And yes, click yes. Here is our device tree I've literally just downloaded. I'm going to rename it. So I'm going to rename it to dtb.img. And when Windows asks me if you want to rename it, I just click yes. And as you can see, it changes it to an img DTB file. So the next thing we need to do now is we need to go over to our TV. We need to take our SD card out of our computer, grab our TV box and go over to our TV, and let's see if it works. Now if it doesn't work, you're going to have to come back and try another device tree blob, but for now let's go over to our TV. So here is my MXQ box. This has the S805 processor inside of it. I'm not going to be using S905 and S912 because you guys that have those, you're going to be probably going through a different device tree blobs until you get the right one. If it doesn't boot, like I'm going to show you, the process is exactly the same as I'm going to show you right now. But if you find it doesn't boot, you're going to have to go back over to your computer and try another one of those device tree blobs until you get the right one for your device. Now the next thing we need to do is insert the SD card. As you can see on the left and right hand side, we've got my SD card inserted into the SD card tray. Get the HDMI ready, as well as that get your power supply ready, and then let's get something thin and pointy. So we're going to insert into the back of the box and hold in what we call the reset button. Now what should happen on screen is you should see the Open-PHT logo. Just leave it alone and let it do its thing. So we'll come to this welcome page, and what I wanted to do is just click next, and then you'll see your router. So it will bring up this keypad, and you can put in your router's password, and then we can move on to the next part. So once you've put in your password, then click next again. Then the system will probably want to do all sorts of different things. It's actually going to go to shared and remote access. And what's important here is that the SSH and Samba are both ticked, these two here. So they're both ticked by default, I think, so that's good to see. But we're going to need SSH to actually install this to your internal memory on your TV box, like I was mentioning before. As well as that, we need Samba as well. So we're connected now, but what we need is we need our IP address of the box. So click next, and let's get to the main menu. So what I want you to do is just click into this system settings here, and then it'll bring up this, and what we want to do is go down to the connections, and then can you see that address that says 192.168.0.6? On yours, it'll say something totally different, but I want you to make a note of that now. What I want you to do is go back over to your computer now, because I'm going to show you how to install this operating system, which is running off our SD card, onto the internal storage of your device. So now we're back over at our computer. I want you to install a program called Putty. This is going to allow us to SSH into the box, which is running right now on our network. So it's all connected to the internet. We've got that IP address, which I've just shown you how to do. So I've made a note of mine. And yeah, so I want you to install Putty. It's a really simple program, nice and safe as well. It's available for Windows and Mac, I believe. Again, those links will be in the description. Now, this is where things maybe gets a little bit scary, but let me load up Putty. Let me show you what it's all about. It's going to allow us to talk to the operating system, basically, and that's all it's going to do. Now, we don't need to get really technical. We're only going to be doing something simple. And what I want you to do here is just where it says host name, just there, is type in that IP address we made a note of. So mine is 192.168.0.6. Now this IP address isn't anything spectacular. You might be wondering what the hell are you doing typing your IP address and showing the world. The hackers can't use that to get in. You need a different type of IP address, but that's not something we need to get into. So once you've done that, just type open. So what I'll ask you to do is log in as. So what you need to do is you just need to type in root and then click enter, and then the password is Open-PHT. It won't actually display on screen when you type in this, so don't worry about that. Just make sure you're typing it properly. So Open-PHT and press enter again, and it'll come up here. Now all we need to do now is we need to type in install to internal. So I'm going to type that right now. As you can see, I've had no spaces in between or anything like that. So install to internal and type enter. And then what you need to do is it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to do this? Because it's going to erase everything. This is where I want you guys just to have a think about this. I don't recommend doing this. I do recommend it for S805 because it should work perfectly fine, but it might corrupt S905 and S912 devices. I don't know what device you have, so I can't confirm whether this is going to work smoothly or it's going to just cause you issues. If you've got that SD card and you don't really need it, I really recommend you just stick to running it from that SD card. But you can ignore me and you can go straight ahead. It's just one of those things where you really do need to think about, it could corrupt your device completely. There is a possibility just there. But anyway, let's type yes and then click enter. And then the system is going to start doing its thing, and just leave it alone. It's going to, as you can see, it's copying system files across, and this might take a couple of minutes to complete. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Once it's done, you can just reset your box and then everything will be on the actual internal. So it's actually come up here with a message saying, do you want to copy your user data to internal data partition? That basically means if you've got anything set up on your Plex system, so maybe you've been running it on your SD card for a while now, and you've got lots of different things set up, do you want to transfer that across? If you don't want to, if you just want a fresh installation, then just type N for no, or yes for yes. There's nothing on mine, it's just a fresh installation, so it doesn't really matter which one I choose. Has no data stored, so I'll just click yes anyway. And then there we go. That is it completed. So one more thing before we move off this topic of installing to internal is the fact that we need to go back to those device trees. Now, I did mention before that you do need the NAND device tree to install it to your NAND, otherwise you're just going to get errors, and if you've had errors, that's why. So if we go back to the device tree index, what's again the links will be in the description. You can see here again we've got NAND versions of all the different types. So NAND here, we've got NAND one there, and yeah, more NAND here as well. So basically these are to allow you to install this to internal. Not all of them have NAND versions, so you might just be stuck with dual booting, and I highly recommend you stick to dual booting. It's just a much safer way of doing things, as well as that you get to keep your internal installation of whatever's on there, like Android or whatever. But just keep in mind that if you're coming across errors, just make sure you've got the right device tree on the SD card, like I showed you at the start of this tutorial. So this is the final part of this tutorial, and I'm going to be showing you how to update it. Now, currently there's no updates available, but you know, if there is in the future or anything like that, you can use this part of the guide to update your system. Okay, so I mentioned at the start there was a file called a tar file. Just go and show you that. We'll come out of here, and we see all these different actual versions of Open-PHT have tar files. Now what we need to do is you need to download the tar file and click OK. Take a couple of minutes to actually download that. But what these basically do is just update the system, and it's just an easier way of doing it. Now we need to actually Samba into the box. You can also use SSH, but I find SSH is kind of command line based and just scares the hell out of a lot of people. I'm not that comfortable with it, to be honest with you. I much prefer, you know, easy to use user interfaces. But anyway, let's come out of here, and any folder on a Windows PC, so I've just set up a new folder here. You can open any folder up, whether it be whatever it is, and then in the top here we can now enter that IP address. Remember that IP address we had for SSH? Well, we're going to be using it here. The only difference is we need to be making backslashes in front of it. So click 2 backslashes and type your IP address that you noted down. So mine's 192.168.0.6, and all you need to do now is click enter. And what will happen is you'll see a whole bunch of folders appear. Now these folders have been pulled from your Open-PHT system, and what you'll see one folder here that says update. So if we click it into update, and there's nothing here. Now that tar file that I'm currently downloading, let's see if it's finished. Yeah, it's finished. I shall put it onto my... Yeah, there we go. It's on my desktop now, and all I need to do to update the system is simply transfer that tar file into the update folder, and that's all you got to do. And then what you need to do next is just restart your device, restart your box. What will happen is when it restarts, the system will detect the tar file and start updating it. You don't need to do this until an update comes out. There's not an update available just yet. Hopefully the developer will continue supporting this project, and this is where I'll tell you guys, go out there and go onto the forum and support these developers. If you're without your support, without you telling them that you're using their development, they just won't bother and they won't continue doing it. So I urge you guys, if this is something useful to you, go out there and show your support in whichever way you can. So yes, this was quite a long tutorial, I understand that, but it's the only way really to explain the different processes involved in doing these sort of things. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this and you've got something out of it, and I really hoped it worked for you. Do let me know in the comment section below how you've gotten on. Anyway, thanks again for watching. My name's Matthew. Don't forget to check out my website, mxqproject.com, Facebook group, and of course Twitter. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. And thanks again for watching. We shall see you very soon.